What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the latest episode of the Warroom podcast presented by the Sideline Journal. I'm your host, Mason Wrather. And last week you heard from our franchise watchdog, Dan. And now this week we're taking it on to the last division in this series, the NFC South.
Hey, the last division that we got, Mason, it's been a fun 8 weeks covering them all. We got the Panthers, Saints, Bucks, Falcons, right? Big Kirko and Michael Penix Jr. We got what are the Saints doing? We got the Bucks. Are they going to keep on rolling? And the Panthers. What's new this year? Do they have a good outlook on the season? What's it like? I don't know, Mason.
Yeah, it's been an incredible ride looking at it all and coming down to this division where a lot of people don't think that it's going to be as exciting, but there's some fireworks pop in this division. You've got year 3 of Bryce Young. You've got Baker Mayfield coming off a 40 touchdown season. You've got the Saints doing something down there. Still don't know what they're doing. And the Falcons with 2 new rookie edge rushers. But anyways, y'all are going to hear all about it in this latest episode of the War Room because it is now open.
This is the Warroom presented by the Sideline Journal, where the film doesn't lie. Let's get to work.
All right, Carolina fans, we're going to start with you first. Last year we had a, exciting end of the season 2 years ago. If you do recall, it was against my Packers where Bryce Young had his best game of his career, probably saved his life. Go into the year, starts off a little slow, not as fun. Let's skip to week 8, I believe. It was against the Denver Broncos. Bryce Young was benched before, and, Andy Dalton is not working out. So you bring Bryce Young back. Plays a pretty good game against the Broncos. And then we beat the Saints. We beat the Giants in OT. Things were looking good at the bye, all right? You think you have something, all right? And then, this is the exciting part. This is when you start to realize Panthers might have something. You lose to the Chiefs by 3, all right? The defending champs, one of the best teams in the league. You lose to them by 3. Very exciting game. Lose to Tampa in OT. You almost had a division rival, all right? You scare the Philadelphia Eagles, my bad. Thinking about baseball. You scare the Philadelphia Eagles, all right? Lose by 6. It was closer before. And then you lost to Dallas, beat Arizona in OT, lost to Tampa, and then you played an incredible game against Atlanta, won it in OT, in a meaningless game in overtime. Last one of the season, you come out with a W, and you go into the next year thinking, yes, we finally have something. Chuba's looking good. Bryce looked like he had something. Let's see what this draft gives us, and let's see this next season. So, with Carolina, looked like it was rolling towards the end of the season. Mason, what did they do with this draft to, help out Bryce Young, and what is the season going to look like?
Yeah, man, I think you hit it pretty well for Panthers fans. They have a reason to be excited. They might finally have their franchise quarterback since Cam Newton.
Maybe.
And it sucked for the trade that it took to get him, but they might finally have him. And I love what they did this offseason. What they decided to do is we're going to do the very best that we can to surround Bryce Young with the talent that he needs. And if y'all followed the War Room all the way out when this started, we had Tedero McMillan going as a top 10 talent. I thought he was going to fall to 12, and I love that the Panthers decided, no, hey, we're going to go take an alpha number 1 wideout for Bryce Young that's going to make his life easier, that's going to allow him to throw those 50-50 balls. It's going to allow your first round pick last season, Xavier Legette, to open up in the intermediate routes. And you've got some younger wideouts now with Jimmy Horn that you drafted. You've got Jalen Coker, who came on pretty strong last season. You got Adam Thielen there to lead them. You've got Ike Ekwonu, who's quietly came along as a starting tackle. You've still got Taylor Moton holding down the right side, and you just start to see the elements of an offense led by Dave Canales that you can be excited for. And I think it is the boldest move a coach has done in the past couple seasons, of benching the number 1 quarterback that you were brought in to fix, and it wasn't working. But it was bold, it was ballsy, and I loved it because it allowed them to sit with Bryce Young and say, hey, listen, you don't have to do everything. What you need to do is work in the structure of the offense and just play football. And everyone made that joke of like, hey, Bryce Young's smiling again. But legitimately, he looked like he enjoyed football again.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's like what you said. I think that you saw Bryce Young come alive. It was maybe a touchstone for his point in his career. And we look at this offseason in 2025 and you think the sky's the limit. But, Liam, I think you have something to say about that defense.
Yeah, I think I touched on this in the AFC South video. The Jaguars had going back 10 years, for having the worst defense in the league, right? The Jaguars it was average for the worst, right? In every other year it probably would have been 31, 32, right? The Jaguars are pretty bad, but they were 31 this year. They're the 31st ranked defense. All right, you know who was 32? The Panthers. All right, they could not cover the pass and they could not stop the run. If you want to make playoff football, you gotta at least stop the run. All right, and every team would just run on them. It was embarrassing. I love this offense. All right, this wide receiver room is pretty interesting. I know they got the two old guys, Hunter Renfrow and Adam Thielen, but that young talent is awesome. And Tedero, yeah, is everything you want in a wide receiver one. He's got the size, the speed, the hands, the route running, the release, the 50-50 ball. He'll probably win him. All right, he's gonna be such a big help for Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard. All right, the Panthers believe in him. They during the season they gave him a 4-year, $33 million extension. All right, made him the sixth highest paid running back in the NFL. All right, and let's not forget he finished 8th in rushing yards in the NFL, and he didn't even play the last 2 games. They shut him down. So they believe in Chuba, which is a good run game. Their offensive line is coming alive. The wide receiver room is looking good. Tight end room, is pretty good too. But this defense, they didn't help it out that much, all right? Because they got J.C. Horn, who's a fantastic corner. They believe in him because, they paid him pretty highly too, I think, recently.
A lot of money.
But
A lot of
yeah,
money.
but just after that, I mean, their second round pick, they went Nick Scorton, who out of Texas A&M. I heard he's been in some trouble. That's why he moved schools. Um, he had a good sophomore season, and then junior season was not as good. It's just he's kind of questionable. He's got the talent; it's there, but are we gonna get it? I don't know. And so it's just that this is the only rookie that they kind of brought in to help out that defense that was pretty bad before. See, I want to like the Panthers because they've kind of been down lately, and then you finally have an offense that you can really root for. But that defense, Mason, not a big fan.
Yeah, it's hard to, start to root for this defense. I think it just really limits their ceiling. Like, you want to get excited for them, and I think Panthers have reasons to be excited for their team. But like you touched on, Nick Skylertown at Texas A&M, I really like his athletic profile. Same deal with the other guy for the Bengals that got drafted in the first round, Shamar Stewart. But he might not ever even see the field because they still won't even give him a contract. But anyways, Nick Scourton, I do think that he can ultimately develop to be a rotational mid-tier starter, which is what you want out of a day 2 pick. And someone I honestly had rated highly that they got in the 4th round, Princely Umanamilan from
Memphis.
LSU. You watch his tape and watch him actually go to work, and I'm telling you, that guy is going to quietly be a very great run defender. So, I mean, just looking at their defense, they have some young pieces that are intriguing. It's going to be led by J.C. Horn in the secondary, and hopefully Derek Brown comes alive. He was their 8th overall pick in 2021. He has shown flashes in this league. He's dealt with some scheme changes playing from an interior 3 tech, a 0 tech, to where now they have him back out as a 5 tech. And we're gonna have to see what he makes his niche in the league, because he majored as a run defender. Now they're putting him in a more of a hybrid pass edge run in a 3-4. And hopefully, what the Panthers fans can take away from this season is that Derek Brown and J.C. Horn both emerge as top 10 players in their position. Nick Scourton and Princely Umanamilan show up as pulses, as edge rushers, and that offense becomes a top 15 offense, because you've got all the recipes, you got the elements there. You mentioned it with Chuba Hubbard, you mentioned it with their offensive line. Dave Canales' offense is built off of a strong run game that allows Bryce Young to play in rhythm. Like, Dave Canales made his chops in the league by reinventing Russ his last couple seasons at the Seahawks, then made Baker Mayfield really good. Now he's here. So I agree with you on some level, Liam, that they're a trendy, exciting pick. For me, just can't commit to them really taking that next step until there's more talent on the roster. But I'm excited for what Bryce Young might be this season.
Yeah, just for the record, just so nobody says that we're wrong and uneducated, he was drafted out of Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
I guess we were
Darn it.
both wrong. Sorry,
Darn
Mason.
it.
We do know Prince. I remember Mason talking highly about Princely in one of our first videos. And looking at some of the film, this guy looks pretty good too. Very physical. But anyways, like you said, I mean, I want to say, and I did say at the beginning of one of our first episodes, I was high on the Panthers, and I was thinking they could legitimately go 9-8. After doing some research and looking at their defense and their schedule, I don't know if that's going to happen. I still think the Panthers fans should enjoy this year, and I think it's going to be better than last year. But I just don't see, especially with the other people in their division, I don't see playoff bound because your defense is not there yet. All right, let's maybe get a free agent next year and then another draft pack. Use our first round to get a defender, maybe like a middle linebacker, a true middle linebacker, maybe a safety. Uh, but yeah, let's do that. And then maybe next year we might be looking at the Panthers playoff team. But this year, I'm not counting it. Mason.
Yeah, I like it. So, I mean, this is for our viewers to decide. We're saying that the Panthers are playing with house money as long as they continue to develop Bryce Young. You drop your take below. What do you think the Panthers' season outlook is? Are they screaming playoffs, or is Bryce Young going to be a bust? Drop your take below. We'd love to hear from you. All right, taking on down south to Tampa and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off of another season, year 2 of the Baker Mayfield era. Going throughout the entire season, they had some ups, they had some downs, they had some big games. Mike Evans missed some time with injury, so did Chris Godwin. They overcame all of that. Baker Mayfield, in tandem with Liam Cohen, had a massive career resurgence of 40 touchdowns. It's, I think, 14 interceptions, had a completion percentage over 70%, and they rattled off 3 or 4 games in the season, and it looked like they were on their way to make it, maybe compete with the Lions like they did last year in the divisional round. But then they ran into the buzzsaw of the Washington Commanders and unfortunately flamed out in the wild card round because of that defense. And so then you go and look into the offseason, and they start to get a little more healthy. They bleed and lose Liam Cohen. He goes to the Jaguars, but they've got Todd Bowles and Jason Light, the tandem, extended. They have the return of some key defenders on the defense. Baker Mayfield is sitting there with a brand new shiny first round wide receiver to throw to. And Liam, is it an MVP season loading for Baker Mayfield?
I'm actually really happy that you asked me that question. I've enjoyed watching Baker ever since I was in high school. I had a red bandana when I was quarterbacking back for 8-man football, just like Baker, and I'd run down the field like that when there was a big touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
Baker's always exciting to watch. He was phenomenal last year, and I think everybody should root for him because his story is incredible. In the NFL, he get drafted to the Browns, the pit of the NFL. He makes them a playoff team. He plays injured because he just loves the game so much and he wants the Browns to succeed. Doesn't do that good, and the Browns banish him to Carolina. Doesn't have any success in Carolina. Carolina banishes him. He's a free agent. Los Angeles picks him up. The Rams. He has that amazing that fourth quarter drive. It was like 90 yards, 95 yards maybe,
Yeah.
with like 2 minutes left. He just got off the plane in Los Angeles. They put a helmet on him and said, "Go in."
Van Jefferson was his number 1 wideout in that game to do that too. Insane.
Wild. All right, and then he, revitalized, goes down to Tampa. They give him a deal, and he's just been going off ever since. Let's talk about last year. He was the 3rd best passer, all right, behind Burrow and Goff, stats wise, passing yards. All right, Burrow had a phenomenal year. Baker was right up there. All right, 2nd in passing touchdowns, tied for 1st with interceptions thrown. Man, I want to say I think it was Michael Penix. No, Kirk Cousins. I think it was Kirk Cousins. Him and Baker Mayfield were tied for most interceptions thrown. All right, let's look. He's looking a little bit like Brett Favre then, right? With the most interceptions thrown, tied. But 2% of his throws were picked off. That's not great either. But Baker's just that guy. He's the gunslinger, and Bucs fans need to know that. Like Brett Favre, you gotta take the good with the bad. I think Baker plays even a little more smarter than Brett Favre. All right, and then in completion percentage, he ranked 5th, which is still pretty good. If you take out Marcus Mariota, Joe Milton, and Tua, so if we have anybody actually say, he's actually 8th Okay, we're not gonna. Tua did not have as many attempts as the other guys, and then Joe Milton, Marcus Mariota, no. So he ranks second in completion percentage behind Goff. I love Baker Mayfield. Excited to see him again this year. I think his wide receiver room is even more stacked. He has a great run game to where teams have to respect that, and they're not always thinking pass like maybe in Cincinnati. You know, everybody has to respect Bucky Irving and Rashard White, and then you got K. Dot. All right, Baker definitely has a chance to have an MVP season, and I know not a lot of people talked about him last year, and he doesn't have the elusiveness as Lamar, and he doesn't have the insane play making plays that Josh Allen has. But I think Baker's just like going off pure stats and the wide receiver room that he has, and get a good little coaching staff behind him. His O line is good. Baker could put up MVP level numbers this year. Yes.
So just to put you out on a limb here because I want to clip it for everybody. Will Baker Mayfield win the MVP this season?
I don't know about Will, because that means he is it. Baker Mayfield should be in the odds. He should be, if, um, at the end of the year when they're saying the MVPs between these three people, Baker Mayfield is going to be up there because his passing yards is going to show, his touchdowns are going to show, his completion percentage is going to show, his QBR, if they care about that. He's going to have highlight plays. Baker Mayfield is going to have enough of a resume this year to where they can say, yes, this is an MVP candidate.
I think Bucks fans should be excited to hear that from you. And I mean, I have a hard time disagreeing with you. We're both Oklahoma guys. We both love Baker Mayfield. We both love his journey in the career. And he definitely is in the environment and situation to do it. You touched on the weapons. I think one of the funniest developments from last season is everyone in fantasy circles and NFL circles are talking about how Rashard White is going to be a top 10 fantasy back, a top 10 running back. And then they actually go find one in the 7th round in freaking Bucky Irving. And I was a victim of it. You succeeded off of it, unfortunately, in fantasy. But I think that's a hilarious development to how deep this team can be because of they've hit on all of their draft picks over a period of time the past 3 seasons. I think there's a reason you saw Jason Light. He's one of the longest tenured GMs in the league, other than I think Jerry Jones, which Jerry Jones can't fire himself because he owns the Dallas Cowboys. But other than Jerry Jones, he's the longest tenured GM in the league. And there's a reason why. He has hit on all of his draft picks consistently. He's the only one I think has been able to overcome drafting a bust number one overall with Jameis Winston and finding a way to overcome that with getting Tom Brady and then replacing him with Baker Mayfield. And you just look at the team and they're primed to repeat for, I think, the 3rd straight season as division champs. I mean, we've talked about their offense, but on defense, they've found a way to consistently in the mid to late rounds find absolute dogs for their defense. Kalijah Cansey has been a consistent 7 to 8 sack pressure guy that nobody talks about. Yaya Diaby is an edge rusher opposite now Hassan Reddick, who, again, they're both double-digit sack guys. They've got Jamal Dean coming back. They've got Antoine Winfield coming back. That front seven, it's why Todd Bowles is the head coach. The way that he blitzes and he disguises cover zero and forces quarterbacks into making bad decisions. He lives and dies by the blitz, and I just think that with the offense being able to put up points, it plays into Todd Bowles' hands because Todd Bowles' defense is not built to want to really have to defend the run 30, 40 times a game. It's built to play with the lead, make people throw it, and say, F you, I'm going to blitz it, good luck. But I mean, still, even if you try to run the football, they've got probably the most pound-for-pound athlete in the league at Vita Vea. He's, 6 foot, 350, and can do a standing backflip. I mean, come on, man. So I think Buccaneers fans have a real reason to be excited for. They're one of those teams that they're playoff risers. Like, my Cowboys are not. They're a great regular season team, and they suck in the playoffs. But the Buccaneers have proven in this short sample size that when nobody expects anything from them, they're playoff risers. I mean, that Commanders game was a one-possession game, went down to the wire, can go any way, and look, the Commanders end up, going to the championship game. So I'm excited to see what they could do. I want to go out on a limb here and say that they're going to make the conference championship game because I think that their path sets up for them to, because you look at the NFC North, you look at other stuff that we've predicted. I think it's going to be a bloodbath out of those wild card rounds. That maybe a seventh seed ends up being what, your Green Bay Packers, the Washington Commanders, and oh, they get to go play the 1 or 2 seed because they're the lowest seed, but then maybe the Buccaneers are playing my Cowboys with the 5th seed, or they're playing the Vikings. So, or they're playing the Lions. It doesn't matter how it wins. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way it could stack up for them, they could easily make that run. And if, like you said, if Baker Mayfield has an MVP caliber season, the Buccaneers might be shocked when they make it all the way to the big dance.
Yeah, and everything you said about the defense, 100%. Vita Vea, I mean, we like to give credit to the trenches, and Vita Vea is the captain of the trenches, and he commands whatever O-line he goes against. I mean, that A-gap, if I was a opposing team's coach, I would say the A-gap will not be run through this week. All right, we got to do something else. It's just Vita Vea's that good as an athlete at like 350. It's wild. Yeah, and they got the passing offense to get to the playoffs, and they got the run offense to succeed in the playoffs. Bucky Irving, rookie year, finished 10th in rushing yards. Pretty good as a rookie. All right, but my favorite stat is that, if we go average yards for running backs, and we're talking about the top running backs, right? I did over 150 carries minimum. You got Derrick Henry was number 1, Saquon 2, Jahmyr Gibbs 3, and Bucky 4th.
Yep.
Bucky 4th. Is he the 4th best running back in the NFL? Well, looking at average yards per carry, yeah, it looks like it. And then to say that Rachaad White is your running back 2, that is unbelievable.
He'd go start for the Cowboys right now.
He could start for a couple teams. Put him in the Broncos. They probably have to force him to be the 1. Rachaad White is very good, and to have him as the 2 is just insane. And then Sean Tucker, I mean, he had a fun little fantasy football week. He was a big waiver wire pickup. Everybody loved him. Sean Tucker is a hard-hitting guy too. So I just think that their running back field is built for the playoffs, and Baker Mayfield is going to carry them to the playoffs. Mason, I got a hot take.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you this before, so react however you want if you want to yell at me. But I think this year, because of the weapons around Baker, Mike Evans does not get 1,000 yards.
Really? See, I'm going to disagree with you because I don't think Chris Godwin is going to come to form yet at the start of the season coming off of that injury. So I think Mike Evans will, but it's going to be like last season where it's going to be, does he get it? Does he not? I don't know, but I mean, if Baker Mayfield throws for 5,000 yards like you think that he can, Mike Evans is going to get 1,000 of those. I'm sorry, he's going to. I think what I'm going to be monitoring is this Levante David's last season. He's 34 years old. He's played at an All-Pro, almost Hall of Fame level for so many years. Y'all can fact check me. I'm pretty sure he's in the last year of his contract, and I wonder if it's the last dance for him. And I hope it's not, because I've really enjoyed watching him play football for all of these years. But I mean, we are smashing the Buccaneers line to the moon. We think that they have got the recipe of what it takes to not only win this division, but be a playoff contender. So Buccaneers fans, NFC South fans, drop your take below. Shout at us of what we don't know, how Mike Evans is going to get 1,000 yards, how Baker Mayfield is a terrible quarterback. We want to hear it. We love to compile these takes, react to them, and just further the discourse. That's why we're doing this. We want to involve you in sports discourse in the War Room. So drop a comment, add us on X. We'd love to hear from you.
Now we're heading out west to NOLA. I love New Orleans. The food, the entertainment, the music, the House of Blues, the snow cone shaved ice. They call them snowballs there. Cafe Du Monde. I love New Orleans. One of my favorite places. All right. Not going to be good this year. All right. Saints fans, let's recap. So you go 2-0. Exciting games. Derek Carr is looking pretty good. Alvin Kamara is looking pretty good. And Rashid Shaheed, who is coming out of nowhere. You win 47-10 against the Panthers, and then 44-19 against the Cowboys. Sorry, Mason. Things are looking amazing. You're thinking this offense is going to be unstoppable, and then you lose 7 straight games. 7 straight to go to 2-7. You beat Atlanta and Cleveland right before the bye. Go 4-7. You don't know what to think, and then you get 1 win out of the last. What is that? 6. So Big struggle last year. Spencer Rattler had to come in for Carr when he got injured. Rattler looked all right. You sat Kamara towards the end. MVS was hit and miss. Olave was getting injured. Just a real disappointing year after it started out so fun. And then what do you do going into this year? Carr retires, shoulder injury. He's not going to make it. A little bit before the draft. That kind of messes you up, right? What was the plan when we brought Carr in from Las Vegas? What was the plan? We had a little transition time to where, yeah, he was going to lead us for a little bit, but now what? Now we have to just accelerate with who's going to be our QB. So you draft Tyler Shuck? Really? Was that the best idea? You got Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck as your competing quarterbacks. I'm just not a fan of what's going on right now. My prediction, Mason, is that the Saints are going to finish 7th in the NFC South. All right, 7th. And the Akron Zips will finish ahead of them.
Y'all, that is so wild, and he really encapsulated the misery and sorrow that Saints fans are feeling this offseason, because that's what everyone's telling you about how terrible you're going to be, how awful your team is, how terrible your draft picks are. But quietly in the football space, with the hire of Kellen Moore, I actually think the Saints are going to be a lot tougher and way better of a football team than anybody's expecting. So Kellen Moore, your head coach you just hired, as an OC in this league, he has always fielded a top 10 rushing offense. Well, you're the stat guy, and you can go check this, I think, since 2015. Every top 10 rushing offense has won at least 7 games in the NFL if they have been a top 10 rushing offense. And I look at the Saints O-line. Kelvin Banks, the 10th overall pick. Trevor Penning, a first-round draft pick. Eric McCoy, a top 15 starting center. Cesar Ruiz, a former first-round draft pick. Talisi Fuaga, a first-round draft pick from last season that I loved the guy, loved the pick. And you've got 2 tight ends in Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, and then you've got your ace in the hole, Taysom Hill. And you still got Alvin Kamara back there. I'm telling you, if Kellen Moore can actually cook, if Tyler Shuck is not just the worst quarterback to ever start since Jamarcus Russell, they're going to quietly be a team nobody wants to play. It's going to suck to watch them, but they're going to not turn the football over, run it 50 or 60 times, play good defense, and do creative stuff on special teams, and you're going to be like, what the hell, when they win 6 or 7 games. Just saying it. You can book it now.
Mason, that wasn't bad. You could maybe sell a Ford Focus as a Lamborghini, but I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it. You could bring in Bill Belichick and try to bar rescue. You could have Bill Belichick come in here and try to fix this. I don't think it's going to work. The roster is just too far gone. They don't know what they're doing. The Derek Carr retire really messed them up in their future plan. Olave's always injured. You're wasting Kamara's last bit of his career. Johnson is
Liam, I'm going to disagree with you. I think the Derek Carr thing actually set them up so well for the future because he gave away his money and it actually helped clean up their cap sheet. So that was actually a good thing.
And who did they bring in with that?
They got under the cap to where they didn't have to trade away people, to where they're going to be more competitive this season. Because they were going to look at more restructures and more releases, but thankfully they didn't.
Sure, but when you bring in a rookie quarterback, and GMs and probably head coaches love it when they have a good rookie quarterback because, they can build a team around them, they can have a good team around them. Take example for the 49ers with Brock Purdy. They loved that for those first 2 years. That was pretty fun, right? The Saints are nowhere near that. The Saints are nowhere near that roster. They do not have the talent built up around them. Looking at last year, what did they do with this roster? They didn't do that good either. I just think their defense isn't there. I don't think this offense is going to be any good. I don't got the Saints doing it that good this year.
Yeah, so you had them placed in 7th. So, how bad do you think they're going to be?
LSU is going to be better than them. Tulane's going to be better than them.
Y'all hear this guy right now? He's having a college football team be better than an NFL team.
Lafayette
and that is just ridiculous. That is being an absolute jokester. And I'm just going on a limb here, and I'm going to say the Saints are not going to be the worst team in the NFL. They're just not. They have too many talented players on their team. And we talked about their offense. I mean, their defense, they still have Justin Reed, Tyrann Matthews, Demario Davis, and Cameron Jordan. They are all old, proven, great players that have still played at a top 15 or top 20 level at their position. Okay, then you mix in the young talent. Chase Young, a former top 5 pick, his worst season ever is 7 sacks. They've got Brian Brisset, who an interior D lineman had 8 sacks last season. They have Carl Granderson. They have Devon Goodshaw, who's a great interior defensive lineman. They have got the Kool-Aid McKinstry as at corner.
Good name. Good name.
Other thing that I really like is an Oklahoma guy that I love that they drafted. They got the Danny Stuntsman, who's just going to bring superior vibes to that defense, that blue-collar attitude from Oklahoma down to NOLA. And I'm just telling you, this is a team that everybody is going to want to say are going to be historically bad. I think that they're going to finish better than the Browns. Right now, truthfully, I think they're going to be better than the Dolphins. I think if the Giants end up being with as terrible of a schedule that they have, they might end up being better than the Giants. And if the Jets jet, well, then you can look up and see that the Saints might not be the worst team in the league. I'm not saying they're a playoff team. I'm not saying that they're going to the Super Bowl. But I think it's ridiculous when I see people saying they're going to go 1-16, 0-17, 3-14. I mean, they play in the freaking NFC South. I mean, come on. The Falcons and the Panthers are not invincible. They're not.
All right, that's a good point. But man, Chase Young, it feels like he's played 50 years in the NFL, and he's only played like 5 or 6. That dude is washed, and he's a young guy. Not a big fan of him. Tyrann Matthew, like him. I'm not gonna hate on Danny Stuntsman. All right, Danny Stuntsman is gonna help out that defense so much. He's gonna have to play every position to help them out. And then you got Will Clapp as a center. So if your center does get injured, Eric McCoy, Will Clapp is gonna be very, very nice. So I'm excited for that if that does happen. But I just don't see it, man. It's just so hard for me. I don't know what it is. We might be on 2 different planes right here. But looking at the Saints roster, this is insane to me that Tyler Shuck. You know what's gonna be wild? If Tyler Shuck really is the man, I'm gonna buy his jersey.
Tell you what, okay, this is a live thing that popped in my head. She said 2 different planes, and we're Thunder guys who watch them. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the 2023 Thunder when they had a bunch of old vets on there. Everyone was saying they're gonna suck, and then oh crap, they made the playoffs. They're actually pretty good. Not saying the Saints are going to make the playoffs, but they're in this intermediate period as they're trying to rebuild with a bunch of veterans. But I think they actually have a competent coach now. I believe in Kellen Moore. I do. And I think they're just going to be better than people expect. I don't think they're going to be 3-14. I just don't see it.
What do you think they're going to go?
I have them.
I know you like saving that for the end, but what do you think they're going to go?
For me, in the Warroom prediction, we have them at 5-12. I see the vision for them to go 7-10. I do. And 7-10, what happens? Tyler Shuck plays as like a top 20 quarterback. They have a top 10 rushing offense. Their defense is top 15. They split games in the division. Right there, they're 7-10. And for year 1 of a rebuild, it'd probably be the worst thing possible for Saints fans. Saints fans don't want to hear that. But Mickey freaking Loomis is the worst GM in the NFL, and this dummy has refused to tear down his roster and has instead acted like the salary cap doesn't exist and has just pushed money further and further in the future where everyone sees it every year. They're like negative $100 billion going into the season. Well, that's when you get an NBA GM to run a franchise, and guess what? That's what the Saints did because it's the same ownership group that owns the New Orleans Pelicans. So if you wonder why the Pelicans suck and why the Saints sucks, look at Mickey Loomis. Anyways, I would stop ranting because I could rant about Mickey Loomis for God knows how long.
All right, hey Mason. If they do go 7-10, I'll buy whatever jersey you want me to buy.
Deal.
I do not care.
I'll take that as a bet. I'll take that as a bet. That's a deal. That's a handshake right there. So, hey, y'all drop that in the comments. Hold us to it. Every season, every time the Saints play and we get our Saints watchdog on, you shout, hey, Liam, yo, Mason, Jersey. The Saints are 5-0. We're gonna want to hear it. So
Not gonna happen.
not going to happen. Well, y'all drop your take below. You either tell me how I know nothing or how Liam's absolutely right and the Saints suck. We'd love to hear from you. We love the discourse. We love the bold takes. We love the comments that say delete our account. We want to hear it all. Drop your take below. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Now we're going back east out to Atlanta, the home of the best chicken, the Lord's Chicken, Chick-fil-A. And which is hilarious because they built one in the stadium. They're not open on Sundays. But anyways, the Atlanta Falcons, coming off of 3 straight 7-10 seasons led by Arthur Smith, who every Falcon was excited to see go. And so you bring in your new, young, hungry defensive coach in Raheem Morris. You sign Kirk Cousins in free agency, who's going to lead you to this new, bright future. Kirk O'Chains is cooking in Atlanta early, doing the wave, and he's swagging and he's surfing. But then, unfortunately, coming off of that Achilles tear, having to play out of the pistol in a college offense from Zach Thompson, he looks uncomfortable. He starts throwing way too many interceptions, and he gets benched for the shocking draft pick that y'all made for the third straight season, 8th overall, taking a young offensive player in Michael Penix. And then it becomes Penix season. And he does some exciting things, turns the ball over a lot, but he does lead to some exciting stuff. You're going right down to the wire, and you finish 8-9. So for all of this new exciting stuff, all of these moves, all of these really good young talented players, you did all of this to improve one game to 8-9. So my question for you, Liam, and to the Falcons viewers is, you've seen all of this draft capital they've put into really good, talented players. Why can't they have a winning record?
Oh, Mason, I'm actually kind of stumped with that. I didn't know you were going to ask it like that. I don't know why they don't have a winning record. I mean, you go in your first round pick a couple years ago, you went Kyle Pitts, and then you go Drake London, and then you go Bijan Robinson, and then you go Michael Penix Jr. Like every other team, if they spent the last 4 first-round picks and very high picks on offensive weapons, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, you think that they'd be really good right now with their offense. It's just incredible how choppy it was, and you brought in Kirk Cousins, and then you drafted a rookie QB. That's a good plan. All right, I'm not mad about that. We've been doing that for decades. All right, every team should realize that with how to develop a rookie quarterback. Don't just throw him in and say, save my team. Just let him sit a little bit. Let him learn the game. If you bring in a veteran, Kirk Cousins is a pretty good veteran. He probably definitely knows the game. Let him teach Michael Penix. That should have been in the contract. And then, things get awkward, and then Kirk Cousins starts playing bad, and then you put Michael Penix in. And so now you're in this little limbo purgatory area where let's start Michael Penix. He looked pretty good at the end of the year, but our really expensive backup quarterback veteran is going to be sitting on the bench.
When they were supposed to be competing, exactly.
Yes, I'm not a big fan of that move because now the Falcons, because of how they finished last year with benching Kirk and saying, let's see what Michael Penix can do. Now that you've done that, this year it's going to start off with Michael Penix probably. And he might be pretty good.
Yeah.
And as soon as he starts doing bad, you know what's going to happen? They're going to bring in Kirk. Kirk is not going to do good. They're going to give him a chance. He's going to start doing good. He's going to fail. And then you're going to be like, let's bring back Michael Penix. And you're going to do this carousel with the quarterbacks. And it's not going to work. They need to decide right now, is Michael Penix going to start for all 17 games, or is Kirk Cousins? Because if you're going to bounce it around, this team is not going to love their leader. This team is not going to enjoy the ownership and the people in charge. Your wide receivers are going to they can adjust pretty well, but going from a left-handed like Michael Penix who spirals it this way, and a right-handed like Kirk Cousins that spirals it this way, it is a little bit different to catch those hot slant routes, right? So if you're going to make them adjust like that, I'm not liking that either. I talked a lot about their offense. Mason, you go for a second.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you real quick, because you were talking about it. Do you think there's actually going to be a quarterback carousel going into this season?
I think weak ownership does that.
So you're predicting like Arthur Smith. It's not Arthur Smith, their owner, meddling in the decisions of the coaches. What you're saying?
I would say head coach, GM, and owner. We'll see how strong-headed they are. Because when Michael Penix starts doing bad, you can't take him out. Do not take him out. Stick with Michael, or say Kirk. Yeah, you got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the Falcons fans would agree with you on that. Like, I think all of them are sold on Michael Penix here too. They want him to be their
Sure.
guy. They hated it when it happened, but they're sold on it. And I think everyone would turn on the franchise if y'all struggle and it's like 4-6, and they try to put Kirk Cousins out there. Fundamentally, for me, from a coach's perspective, I hated the hire of Zach Thompson as your offensive coordinator. He runs an offense that's completely alien to what Kirk Cousins is supposed to do. So when they gave him that 4-year, $180 million contract, you think they'd give him something from the Kevin Stefanski West Coast power run scheme branch of offensive thought, but instead they went more so towards a spread college offense where he's got to line up out of the pistol. If y'all don't know, lining up out of the pistol as a quarterback, you're lining up 4 yards flat-footed where you can't cheat on a leg, and you've got to plant and throw off of your bad Achilles tear at 35 years old. And for me, I just think Kirk Cousins was set up for disaster. I just don't think for the money they gave him and the offense they put in, I just didn't think it was going to work. And so if you have an OC that for me is that stupid, to then try to pair him with your rookie quarterback, if you like, the number one thing as a coach is you've got to tailor your offensive system to what your players are good at. And if you can't get to that part to do that, and you don't have the alignment from your GM to your coaching staff and the front office all the way down, it trickles down. If you don't have that, then you're not going to be good enough to be good in this league. So I don't want to, that's the glass half empty approach. The glass half full approach is they have an offense that Michael Penix thrived in at Washington that went to a national championship game. And for year 2 for the Falcons, if they're going to get over that hump to maybe have a winning record, Kyle Pitts has to come alive. Drake London has to solidify himself as a top 10 wide receiver. Bijan Robinson, put up or shut up, has to produce as a top 3 running back. And Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom cannot let their age show. They have to continue to play at top 10 levels at their position. And if that happens, then maybe the Falcons will actually have a winning record.
Yeah, and man, we gotta start talking about this defense. I just got a couple more things on the offense, Mason. Kyle Pitts, we hate him because of fantasy football. You know, that kind of sucks, right? In the NFL, it doesn't help too because they're always posting this is Kyle Pitts here, and now it's a joke. Terrible joke. Kyle Pitts, football-wise, is a good tight end. He's a good tight end.
Yes.
He doesn't produce the numbers that you'd like maybe as a wide receiver, as highly as a picked tight end as Kyle Pitts was, but he still puts up good stuff, numbers and production, blocking, doing what he's supposed to do. Arthur Smith is to blame for why his numbers weren't so good at the beginning. They had that incredible 3-man reverse throw to Jonnu Smith, which was wild. But anyways, yeah. Kyle Pitts is fine. We hate him because of fantasy football. I'm not going to say this is his breakout year, but he's still a good tight end. Drake London is a top 10 wide receiver. He could show that he could be a top 5 wide receiver.
Hey, real quick, Liam, I want you to name the top 10 wideouts, because if you put them at 10, there's going to be some people that are left off of that. Like, I think that is a very hot take to say Drake London is a top 10 wideout. Yeah, I can. Go. All
right, so I got the top 10 wide receiver listing right here, and we might have to take a little break from the Falcons, but 1, 2, and 3, Jamar, Jay Jettas, and CeeDee. I think those are all really close, somewhat interchangeable. I think Jamar just coming off his last season, number 1, but it's so close, all right. And then number 4, I got Amon-Ra. Okay, he's solid, he's shifty, he's produced numbers. That's incredible, right? Number 5, I got Puka Nacua. All right, he's a young guy showing lots of talent. He's reliable. He can take on everything. And number 6, I got Drake London.
Oh, hell no.
Number 6, I got Drake London is bad.
You're forgetting somebody on the Eagles.
Like who? No.
That guy AJ Brown, who PFF, the company you work for, rated him as the number 1 wideout, and you don't even have him in the top 6. Are you kidding me? Drake London's better.
Physical. Yeah. AJ Brown's more physical, and everybody likes how he's got the muscle and everything. But no, he's Drake London's a better route runner and catcher, speed, everything.
So then who do you have at 7?
I got Nico.
Oh,
I like
okay.
Nico.
Nico? Who do you have at 8?
Malik.
8?
Malik.
Malik Neighbors?
And then number 9, I got Brian.
Thomas Jr., okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Malik
AJ,
and Brian. I know they're rookies, but yeah.
so do you
And
have
then
AJ
AJ Brown.
at 10?
Yeah.
So for our viewers, the Warroom analyst has Drake London at number 6 and AJ Brown at number 10. That's wild. That is
And you
wild.
know what's gonna be funny? All right, y'all hating now. You know what's gonna be funny? When Drake London finishes 6th in receiving yards, probably like 6th in receiving touchdowns next year. Y'all gonna stay hating. Y'all are gonna stay hating, and what I just put out is gonna come true.
Hey, there you
Trust-
have it. There you have it right there. I definitely rage baited the crap out of Liam, and he delivered. He delivered to rage bait me even harder and the viewers even harder. So I love it. But getting back to the Falcons, so
Yes,
they've got
yes.
great players on offense, but we got to look at this defense, and that's been their kryptonite for why they've been where they've been the past couple seasons. You know, AJ Terrell has played quietly at a Pro Bowl top 15 corner in the league. They went and got Jesse Bates in free agency, who is a top 5 safety in forcing turnovers and tackling, and they've got a good secondary. Mike Hughes is no slouch as a slot corner. I like D. Alford as a transition safety. They went and got Jordan Fuller, who's been a starter in Carolina,
solid.
and they've got a solid secondary. But their
Billy Bowman
fronts-
Jr.
Billy Bowman Jr. They drafted him, but the big question mark that's been for them is their front 7 has been absolutely atrocious for so
One of the
long.
worst, yeah.
So what did they do to address it?
Hey, what did they do? They got rid of all of their future picks for James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker. Not terrible, but to give up all that, I don't know. But I'm glad about this. We talked about their ownership not being good just a couple minutes ago, but you saw the wound and where it was bad, right? Their pressure on the quarterback, their TFLs, their in the backfield. They addressed it pretty well. Getting Jalen Walker and James Pierce, solid guys. James Pierce is lengthy. He can use leverage really well. He's got those arms are ginormous. And then Jalen Walker, physical, hard hitting. He's going to be a pretty good edge for them. They got what they needed, and they think this is the year. So I don't hate it, but yeah, Mace, it's just that the edge rush and the pressure from the inside and the run stop last year was awful. So.
I just think it's an absolute gamble to bet on 2 rookie pass rushers as your top 2 pass rushers. Not every single one's going to be TJ Watt or Micah Parsons. It's just not going to
They're not
happen.
even the best in the class.
And they're not even the best ones in the class. Like Abdul Carter, okay, if you gotten him and then went and got James Pierce, which there's no way they could have done that because Abdul Carter's the best one in the class. But if they'd done that, I could believe it more. But Jalen Walker played as an off-ball linebacker, was recruited that way at Georgia, and in their multiple 3-3-3 stack defense, they were able to move him around to rush the pass or rush the passer as an edge rusher. And so, I mean, you take him, which I like the pick when it happened because of where they got him value-wise. He's an athletic freak, but they're banking on him to be their double-digit pass rusher. Then James Pierce, they mortgage their future. They send a first-round pick in 2026 to get back in to take someone that's had off-the-field questions. His production slipped. Incredible physical profile. Everyone thought he was going to be a top 10 pick going into the season before the draft process played out. So, I mean, that's the glass half full look at it. But it scares me what they're doing on their defense just because you can't bank for me in the NFL with the way offensive line play is on 2 rookie pass rushers to lead your defense. And I think it's going to be their kryptonite. I think they're not going to have another winning season because of it.
Really, not another winning season? I mean, yeah, I know they went 7-10, 7-10, 7-10, 8-9, but I mean, come on, this has to be the year they at least maybe Mike Tomlin 9-8 it, right? I mean, that offense is just so good, and their secondary was good last year, and they bumped it up with their pressure, which is needed fixing. I mean, I could see it though, because if they're gonna, like I said earlier, if they're gonna play QB carousel, I don't think anything good is gonna come out of it. But hey, let's give some love to Young Wei Koo, right? Since 2020, he's been steady with it. Him and Brandon Aubrey have going back and forth. He had a down year this year, but I still trust him. Young Wei Koo's still gonna be that guy, man.
Yeah, he's been arguably one of the best kickers in football, and it's always good to have a great
That like
kicker.
2020, 2021 season, man, was phenomenal. I want to say like 90% kicks made, and he was kicking some from like past 50. It felt like so. Hey, keep it up, Young Wei.
Gotta love the kickers. Gotta love the kickers. But I think that's where we leave it. Will the Falcons get over that hump and have a winning season? I don't think that they will. Liam doesn't think they will for other reasons. I think it'll be because of their defense. I mean, we'll see, Falcons fans. Will there be a quarterback carousel? Will Penix rise to the occasion? Is Drake London a top 5 wideout? Y'all decide. Drop your take below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. All right, so y'all been waiting for the official record predictions. This is kind of wrapping up the last of these predictions, and y'all can be able to fact check us and look to where we got it, as we've tried to track every single game that we've done across every team, all 17 weeks. And so we took a look at the Panthers, the rise of Bryce Young, kind of where the defense is. We looked at the Buccaneers and maybe an MVP season for Baker Mayfield. We had the debate of if the Saints are going to be the worst team or not in the NFL, and then with the Falcons, if they could finally get over the hump and have a winning season. And so, kind of war mapping and game playing this out, the official Warroom predictions for the division is that the Buccaneers win it for the third straight season, going 11-6. Finishing second, battling all the way to the end of the season. Maybe they win one game or not. We have the Falcons at 8-9. Number 3, we have the Panthers, led by a resurgent season of Bryce Young, but playing a lot of high-scoring games. They're going to finish at 7-10. And the surpriser maybe is we have the Saints at 4, not being the worst team in the league, going 5-12.
Yep. Bucks, of course, they're just such a powerhouse right now in the NFC South. That offense looks pretty unstoppable. We'll see how good of a coach Liam Cohen is and see how good the Bucks were last year. Definitely, probably by week 8, we'll definitely see. Maybe they were just both good. Maybe it was a good coach and a good offense. Maybe Liam Cohen was the mastermind, and maybe no, it could be both. The Panthers, looking forward to seeing them, and it's gonna be, you're gonna look at this in a couple years and say, oh, they went 7-10. That's not that good. Big improvement from the last couple of years of being down in the dumps. And then the Saints, um, yep, all right. They definitely could, maybe because they have an easier schedule than some of these other teams have that have been kind of down low. But they might, they could get the 5th pick or the 6th pick next year, maybe 7th, and then. Yeah, the Falcons. What are they going to do? I think it really all depends on how much faith they have in Michael Penix versus Kirk Cousins. You're paying Kirk a lot to sit on the bench, and Michael Penix looks like he could be ready. What do you do? I just think they're going to mess it up if they try to go back and forth with him. But, yeah, I agree with the records, Mason.
Yep, so there y'all have it. That's our prediction. We've now predicted all 32 teams in the NFL, their entire season. We're going to enjoy getting to look back at these. Inevitably, by week 6, we've got it all wrong, and somehow the Panthers are winning the Super Bowl. I hope y'all enjoyed this editions of the War Room, because now we're taking it into a new direction, doing some different stuff. And so y'all drop your take below. Do you agree or disagree with our predictions? Tell us as a whole, what was the worst prediction of this entire series? If we got your team wrong, we'd love to hear from you. Well, that wraps up the 8 divisions, and hopefully by week 7 and 8, when the Saints are, winning 7 games, and I got to make Liam wear a Cowboys jersey.
I'm pretty confident that won't happen, but if it does, Mason, what number will I be wearing?
You'll be wearing a number 4 with a very pretty name of Dakota Rain Prescott on that jersey. I'll get special mint for you.
That's not going to happen. I'm not worried about it.
Oh. I guess we'll see, but what's should be exciting for our viewers is coming up next week. We're gonna have some guests on of actual college football players, the college that I coach at, Southwestern Oklahoma State University, and the three guys that we're gonna have on. They've got incredible journeys. Liam has gotten with our Warroom department and has scouted out their huddle highlights careers, and the guys we're bringing on is a quarterback transfer from LSU, state champion Knox Dyson. We're going to bring on a quarterback from Claremore, coach's kid, Braxton Etheridge, and then we're bringing on a guy that touches the football every offensive play, Noah Cowan, a center, and their nickname is the Bush Gang, and we couldn't be more excited to bring them on.
Hey, super excited to have these guys on. We're going to learn something. You guys have to, join with us, and maybe you'll learn something too. Maybe some of you younger guys might be in high school ball or another college or just trying to learn something about how to play football. You're definitely going to learn something, whether it be the schemes or maybe what they do inside the locker room you don't know about, maybe the meetings. So, yeah, we're going to break it all down. It's going to be very fun.
Absolutely, that was a great point because you're going to get to learn about their journey, their recruiting journeys, their philosophy, the effect NIL's had on their college careers, and it's all going to be here on the next episode of the War Room. So anyways, we've really enjoyed this. I've loved, bearing with my guy Liam, and hey, it's official. There's only 10 more Sundays until we get to finally watch NFL football again.
Finally.
Could not be more excited. Anyways, y'all stick with us as we go out into the season. We'd love for you to join the War Room and click that subscribe button because we want you to be a part of it. But anyways, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.
We hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the War Room podcast presented by the Sideline Journal. That wraps up all 8 divisions, 8 weeks of football. We're getting through close to being the end of the dog days of the summer, and NFL season's almost here. Only 8 more Sundays. Anyways, we'll catch you in the next one.